Welcome to a Bowls Victoria BowlsLink training session, our webinar. Today we're going to look at our membership module. Before we do that, let's just acknowledge the different clubs that are on our session today. It's great to see so many people have signed up for this webinar and the range of clubs that we have represented today. So thank you for giving up your time and looking to improve your skills on BowlsLink as the club administrator. Let's do a little bit of housekeeping before we get into the membership module. I'm sure a lot of you have been on Zoom, and you'll probably notice that today's session is a little bit different than a lot of your meetings. So today is a webinar. That means you'll lose your video, so you won't be able to see other people. Unfortunately, you'll just be able to see me. You also lose the option to talk as well. So this is really good if someone wants to present a whole lot of information and just wants the participants to watch. There is a question and answer facility in this webinar. So if at any time you've got a question that you would like me to answer, please add that into the question and answer box. We are recording today's session so that we can send this out as a replay for further reference. You can also pass that on to other people at your club that would like some training with the membership side of BowlsLink. All right, let's get started. Today we're going to look at 5 different areas. Our first area we're going to look at is our members section. So we're going to look at the difference between active, pending and archive members. We're going to look at how to add a new member and how to edit an existing member. After that, we're going to move on to groups and categories. So it's really important to know the difference between those two, what's a group and what's a category. And then we're going to look at how to use those groups and categories for your database. We're going to touch on certifications, the types of certifications that you're allowed to add to your members and how to add that to a member. We're going to briefly talk about transfers, so how that impacts your club and what you can see. And then finally, we're going to look at how we can export our database and how you can best use that out of the system. Finally, we'll look at some questions and answers that haven't been answered during the webinar. All right, let's move on to our first one, our members. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to log into BowlsLink. Today I'm using the beta system. So this is our training section of BowlsLink. So it's not real. It allows us to do a whole lot of simulation without using real members. All right, one of the first things that I want to talk about here is profile. I have a couple levels higher than most people do because I'm an administrator. But when you log into BowlsLink as the club administrator, you've got 2 profiles down here. You've got one under club administration, and you've also got my clubs. My clubs is more for entering teams and results, where club administration is your database where you can see your members. So when you log into BowlsLink, make sure you're clicking on your club administration profile. So today I'm going to use the Bowls Victoria demo club. One of the first things I like to do when I log into the membership database is I like to change my rows. Unfortunately, at the moment, the default is 25. That is going to get changed to 100. So I like to move mine to 100 so I can see most of my members. Another important feature that I'll just highlight this morning is this green button. This is where you can request some support. By clicking on that button, you can then access a whole lot of user manuals. You can also request an administration account through this, and also you can report a bug. So if there's a particular error that you're noticing, you can click on that and that'll go straight to the developers to have a look at and hopefully fix. Let's have a look at each of our headings here. So obviously a lot of them is pretty straightforward. We've got our last name and first name, and you can sort by those. I might sort by last name. Membership number. I say a lot of people don't actually know that they have a membership number, a Bowls Australia membership number. So this is your ID number. You can use that ID number to log into BowlsLink if you don't have an email or a mobile number. So it's important to let your members know that they actually have an ID number out there. And I would say that that number is just going to get used more and more as we start to use BowlsLink. Category, I will talk about that later on in the webinar, and same with certifications. There's a heading called playing rights. I suppose what you really need to know here is that if the dot is red, this member doesn't have playing rights, and if the dot is green, the member does have playing rights. The other column's pretty straightforward. That's financial until. So we will look at how to make our members financial. Member since, you'll notice that a lot of clubs, they have that information missing. So you make sure you add in when your members have started at your club. The next column is club. And you'll see that we have clubs in bold, and we also have clubs that are not in bold. What you need to know here is that the bold club is your primary club. So that's where you're going to be playing pennant. And the unbold is your secondary club. So we'll talk about primary clubs and dual memberships as well today. I'll just move my video up so I can see that button. And date of birth and gender, pretty straightforward. And the last one is our actions button. So when it comes to performing quite a few of our actions in this system, this is the particular button that we'll be using. All right, I'm going to click on our first member here, and let's have a look at what we see. All right, we have a few tabs up here. We've got activity, which is the different activity that this member has been involved with. And then the main one is details. Here you will see the key details. So straight away I can see whether they're missing some of those key details or not. We have our membership information. So I've already spoken about that. Member since and financial until. This is where you'll see your membership category. And this particular member does not have a category. We will talk about that later. The status, this particular member is active. Member groups, this person does not belong to a group, and we will talk about that. And email campaign channels. Also, we've got in here certification. All right, while I'm in here, I'm going to edit this person's details. So I'm going to click Edit Member Details. So if my member doesn't have an email address, obviously that's where I'm going to add it there. And if they don't have a mobile number, the same. Just make sure that the year, birth year is correct. I know when we transitioned from the old system to BowlsLink, a lot of our years, the correct years didn't correspond. So if you find a lot of your members have the birth year 1919, make sure you change it to the correct one. I can then click on personal information. So here I could put their landline if they had it. I could add in their address. Emergency contact. That's really handy if any of our members unfortunately have an emergency at the club and we've got someone that we can contact straight away. Invoicing, we'll talk about that in another module, but that's to do with the finance section of BowlsLink. And we've got deceased date. So if any of your members unfortunately have deceased, you'll need to add in their date there. And then add that member to the archive list, which I'll go through in a moment. Membership details. So here's where you can change what year they joined your club. You can also make them financial and just ignore the state competitor ID. That's not relevant at the moment. Finally, we've got additional details. Now, you can see that I've put in a field locker number. So that's a particular field that I want to have in my membership database. And I've put in the number for this person. To add more into that additional details, you actually need to go over here to clubs. And under manage my club, go to club member additional details. So over here we have a whole lot of options that we can bring in. So I've got a yes or no. I can add it here. I could say Club Bowls. So I want to know whether this particular member is using the Club Bowls. So I can hit save. I can go back into my membership. I can go back into my member and hit edit. Additional details. Now you'll see that's come up here, and this particular member does use our Club Bowls. So I'm going to tick that as yes and hit save. All right, so that's how you edit an existing member. If we want to go back now, this is how I add a new member. So I click the button up here, add member. Now I do have two options here. I've got a brand new member. So this will be someone who's probably hasn't bowled before and is coming to your club, might be from your socials, or I've got an existing member. Now, adding an existing member, it's really an option for where you want someone who bowls at another club that wants to have maybe a social membership at your club, so a dual membership. The advice at the moment is to not do that through this system. It's to give Bowls Victoria a call. So if you have any members who want to become a dual member, that means they don't really want playing rights at your club, but they want to be in your membership. That's how you would do that. And again, we wouldn't have two member ID numbers, it would be the same one. All right, I'm going to add a brand new member today. So I'm going to click on new member. I'm going to add Jane Smith. And I'm going to add her email address. Now, email and mobile number have to be unique. So no one in your club can share an email and a mobile number in personal details. So I'll show you what to do if we have some members that have the same email address and the same mobile number. Okay, must put her birthday in and her year. And hit next. All right, when we add a new member, we do need to give them a password. This is not necessarily the password that they're going to use to log into BowlsLink, but we just need to give them a password. So whenever I add a member to my club's database, I just give them a generic password. And then when they log into the system for the first time, they'll be asked to do a password reset. And hit next. I don't have Jane's address details, so I'm not going to add that in at the moment. When I get those details off her later on, I will add that in. Jane has paid her social membership, so she's financial. So let's say a year on from this. You do need to check with your constitution on what your financial year is, so when it starts and when it finishes. And Jane has just joined today. So I'm going to hit next. Jane is not going to be given a locker number from our club, but she is going to be given a set of bowls. So I'm going to hit yes there. And then I just need to tick agree to the terms and conditions. If Jane wants to refer to those, you can give her a copy and hit add member. Okay, it's saying here, please ensure you've filled in all the additional club details. I'm going to go back. Okay, no locker, not applicable for Jane. Okay, so Jane has now been added, but as it says here, she's been added to our pending membership list. So to view that, I'm going to click here. So that's back to Jane. All right, so Jane's not going to be in here. So if I search for her, she's not going to appear. There's Jane's, but not Jane. I'm going to click on pending. So the reason why some clubs would use pending is they might add this person in and then they might put Jane's membership details up on the board and she's got 2 weeks before it gets approved. Now, I know that Jane has been approved, so I'm going to search for her last name. And there she is there. So I'm going to click the actions button and I'm going to approve membership. Okay, so now I go back into active and you'll see that Jane has now been added. She doesn't have playing rights, so I'll talk about that a little bit later on when I go through categories and groups. Now, archived, the only time you really need to use archived is probably at the start of your season, and when you go through your list and you look at any members that have really left. When Bowls Victoria does the transfers, they'll automatically put those members into your archive list. So here's my archive list. I'll just take that filter off. And I've only got one member in there. Let's say Jane has decided that she's no longer going to be with the club. Bowls is not for her, so I'm going to go back to active, and I'll just show you how I could make Jane archived. I'll go down to Jane, I'll click on my actions button, and down the bottom it's got archive member. Are you sure I want to do that? Yes. And now Jane appears. Now I know that actually Jane doesn't want to leave our club. She's only just joined. So to reverse that, I'm just going to click the actions button and hit unarchive member. And again, it's saying, are you sure you want to unarchive Jane Smith? And I'm going to say okay. Excellent. So I think I hopefully have demonstrated the difference between active, pending, and archived. I've also shown you how to add a member and also how to edit a current member's details. All right. I'll just give people a chance to ask any questions about things that we've covered so far before we move on to the next section, which is groups and categories. I'll just grab a quick drink. All right, looks like we don't have any questions at the moment. We do have time at the end of this webinar today to answer any of your questions, so don't forget to add them into the question and answer box. All right, the next section that we're going to look at is groups and categories. Now, I know when I started to use this system for my club's database, I was really unsure about what member groups was and member categories. As it says up here, groups allow clubs to organise members into flexible sets that can be used for emailing. So basically, when I think of member groups, you don't have to use them, but I might want to put my selectors into a group like this particular club has. So straight away they can see who that is. And the benefit of doing that is I can make that an email channel. So when it comes to using BowlsLink for emailing, which will be another module that will roll out at Bowls Victoria, I can send emails straight to those 10 selectors. You'll see this Thursday night club barbecue group that doesn't have an email channel. So I've just noticed I might use that one to just work out who those people are. If I was adding member groups in there, I would really make the most of our email channels. All right, member categories. This is really important. And you might need to refer to your club's constitution on what sort of categories you have at your club. This particular club has got quite a few. And the big one here is playing rights. So in Bowls Victoria, anyone who's at your club, if they're bowling more than 6 times in a year, and that doesn't have to be competitions, that might be just regular turn up and roll, they should be getting playing rights. So these groups here, and that makes sense because it's got non-bowling. These are really groups that I'm going to put my members into, and I know that they're not bowling. Full member makes sense. That should be have playing rights, and that should be someone who's bowling all the time. This one here, we've got social playing, plays each week. So again, that's a big difference between the bottom one, where they're just a social member. They're not having too many roles on the green, where this particular group and that one member they are practicing each week. And hopefully over time, you'll be able to move that person into a full member by giving them some great coaching and encouragement. All right, let's go through how to add, just check my sheet, how to add a category and how to add a group. So just like before with add a member, we click up here on add member category. Now, just trying to think of what category I'm going to add here. All right, we're going to create a group. For our Friday night barefoot bowlers. Okay, now we're only going to run 4 of these, so I'm not going to give this particular group playing rights. If this group deserves playing rights, obviously you would just tick that includes playing rights. So I'm going to untick that and hit save. Now, Jane, who's just come to my club, I know that she's going to be in that group. So this is how I can add Jane to that category. I'm going to go back to members. I'm going to search for Jane by her last name. Now to add Jane very quickly to that group, that category which I just created, I'm going to tick Jane, and then I'm going to click on add to category. I'm going to choose that one, that Friday night barefoot, and I'm going to hit assign. And as you can see now, Jane has been added to that group. She doesn't have a green dot because that particular group does not have playing rights. All right, I'm going to go back and I'm going to add Jane to a group for emailing. Okay, just like before, I'm going to click add member group. I'm going to call it It's going well with my capitals. All right, now I want this group to be an email channel, campaign channel, because I want to be emailing these people regularly about results and trying to get them into the club as much as I can. So I'm going to click save. And you'll see there is the new group that I've created, and it's green because it's an email channel. So when I use my email through here, I'm going to be able to email those members. And as you can see at the moment, there's no members, so I need to add Jane to that. So same method as before, go back to members, find your member. Now I could put all of those people into that group by ticking that top box. So that's a quick way of adding multiple members to a particular group. But I'm going to untick that because I just want to put Jane into that group. So like before, just click add to group. Choose the right group in your drop down, Friday night barefoot, and hit assign. And you'll see there's a tick there to show that Jane has now been assigned to that. Won't appear here because we don't have a column for groups at the moment. But if I go back into groups and categories, over here I can see that Jane is in that one. All right, so I'll just go through that bulk upload again. So I can choose a couple members. I can actually make them financial. So change their financial date by clicking on that. I can add them to a category. I can add them to a group. I can also create an invoice for those members. Now today I'm not going to go through the finance section of BowlsLink. Again, that'll be another module that we'll look at, but that's another great way of using this system and invoicing your particular members. So I can do all of them. I can untick and just do the members that I want. Okay, so just to go back over what we've been talking about, in this particular section we're looking at groups, member groups and member categories. Just remember the big difference between a member group and member categories is that we use those member groups for email campaigns. Member categories is deciding what sort of category that member's going to go to in your database. And the big one in here is deciding whether that particular category is going to have playing rights or not. All right, before we move on to certifications, I'll just give some of our members a chance to ask any questions. All right, no questions at the moment. We do have a question and answer section at the end of this webinar. So maybe we'll get more of those at the end. Okay, certifications. The big thing to notice here is, well, when I click on it straight away, I can see which members in my club have certain certifications. So I can filter. And I might want to find all my club coaches. All right. So straight away I can see that there is a couple that their certifications have expired. So I would be speaking to those members about making sure they reaccredit. I can also see that quite a few of my members, their certification is pending. Now, Club Coach, because that's a Bowls Australia coaching course, I can't fix that up. I can't approve that membership. So all the courses, so Club Coach, let's see what else we've got over here. So Advanced Coach, competition module, they're all Bowls Australia courses, so I can't give that certification to any of my members, and I can't do the reaccreditation, and I can't approve them. There are a number of certifications that we can put onto our members. So we've got a manage one here. I'll talk about that when it comes back to, that's about approving. Now again, I can't do that because it's a club coach. So go back to members. Now let's have a look at sort of the certifications that we can put on for our members. So let's go through this list again. Basic food handler, I can put on. Bus driver, yes, I can. I can't do a pennant permit. That's done through Bowls Victoria. I can do RSA, and I can do working with children. Another one is first aid as well. So it's really good to update your member database by attaching these certifications to your members. So how do we attach a certification? I'll go through that now. Just over here though, quickly, there's the export. That's a new feature that's been added to BowlsLink, and that's if you want to export your database with the list of certifications. So at the start of the season, it's a good idea to come to that export and have a look who's accredited, have a look at which certifications have expired. So it's a good process to go through at the start of the season. All right, to add a certification. So let's say Jane, who's just joined our club, she has a working with children's check, and I'd like to add that into our database. So I'm going to go to members. I'm going to find Jane again. Now, this time I'm just going to click on Jane. And over here, we've got the certifications. So at the moment, Jane doesn't currently have any certifications. So I'm going to click Add Certification. I'm going to find the right certification. So it's Working with Children Check Victoria. Now, I wouldn't be adding this to Jane unless Jane can give you some proof that she has that Working with Children. So Jane has given me the certificate, so I can put in the date that she obtained this certificate. And she got it a couple of months ago. And I can also put in the valid until date. So she's got a year on that. Okay, I can also photocopy that and turn it into a PDF, and I can add the file here too by choosing File, finding it on my computer and putting that into here. So it's a great way of storing certifications. So if people need proof of that, you've got it loaded into your database. I'm going to hit Create. Now you'll see that Jane's dot is not green. So that means that I've put the certification in, but I have not approved that certification. So to approve that certification, I go back into certifications. I can go down and see that Jane has that, but it's saying pending. So to approve that, I go into Manage. I go down to Jane. Or I might use the search feature here so I don't have to keep looking through. There's Jane, Working with Children Victoria. I put in my dates, and I'm going to click the Actions button and hit Approve. All right, if I go back into now, you'll see Jane has that and it's approved. So just to go back over what we've done with this certifications. So when I click, I'll take the filter off. When I come in here, straight away, I can see who in my club has certifications. And the big one here is, remember that a lot of our coaching courses and umpiring is all done through Bowls Victoria. So we can't look after the adding those certifications in and reaccreditation. There's a process, and you'll need to contact Bowls Victoria for that. But there is a lot of ones that I can add in. So that's generally a certification that your member can give you. So we went through those before. That was the RSAs, Working with Children check, first aid, and I think we had food handling in there as well. All right, process to add it is a little bit different. It's not done in here. We go back to the member. We click on the member, and then in here I can add that certification through Add Certification. You'll see now that Jane's dot has gone green because I've approved that. And just to revisit how to approve, unfortunately you need to go back into groups and category, sorry, not group, certifications, and you need to click Manage. That's when you'll get that action button, and you'll get the action to, so let's have a look at this one here. You've got the action to approve. All right, and I also did mention here that you can export that list into a Excel file. All right, I'll give members a chance to add some questions. If we don't get many questions, we'll move straight into transfers, and then we'll look at exports, and then we do have a section at the end for questions and answers. All right, no questions at the moment. Looks like we've got some experienced club administrators on this session today. All right, transfers. There's not a lot to do here because a lot of our transfers are done through Bowls Victoria. So when a particular member wants to leave your club and go to someone else's club, there's a process that that member will need to follow through Bowls Victoria. And as I mentioned before, when someone does leave your club, they'll get archived in your list. Now, I have had questions before about dual membership. And again, that will be done through Bowls Victoria. So you need to contact Bowls Victoria and follow the process for adding someone with a dual member. But remember, they'll be a primary contact at one of those clubs. So when you come in here, really all I look at is my approved. And straight away I can see who has left my club and gone to another club, and who's been approved to come to my club from another one. All right, there will be further advancements in this section here where you'll actually be able to request a transfer for a player or a member, but that's not available at the moment. That's a facility that will come. All right, we'll go straight to exports. Okay, so just want to use the opportunity now at the moment to remind everyone that reporting, there's not a lot of reports you can do at the moment in this in BowlsLink. You can do an export, which I'll show you, but the reporting process is currently being worked on by the developers. So I would say in the next 2 or 3 months, you'll be able to come back into your BowlsLink and you'll be able to pull out a whole lot of reports. So that'll involve competition as well. So it could be competition results. It could be I want to report on just all my umpires or just my coaches. So all the states and territories are putting their request lists in at the moment of what reports they would like, and the developers are going through the process of adding that to BowlsLink. But it is going to take some time because they want that reporting system to be spot on and ready for our members to start using. All right, export. So all you do here is you click on the actions button, you hit download report. I'm not going to do that because it's not one of the windows that I'm sharing at the moment. I've done this prior to the webinar. So if I click up here on the tab up here, this is what you're going to see. Now I recommend that all our club administrators, they're the people that are on today, probably do an export at the start of the season, because straight away I can see here all our missing data. Now you probably just need to, as a club, work out what data you're going to collect. You might not have addresses, but straight away I can see that my email addresses are pretty good. That was one thing we noticed at a lot of clubs. Members were missing their email addresses. Mobile numbers could be fixed up a bit. That's a reference there if you want to know what a particular member's ID number is. You can see a lot of birth years are incomplete, so they haven't been added. And a lot of genders haven't been fixed up. So this particular database is pretty good with email addresses, but apart from that, a lot of the data is missing. further down here, I can see my financial list. You can see who's archived. This is a good one here, who's got playing rights and who doesn't. A lot of these members in this particular database have not been added to categories, so that would be a bit of work for this particular person. And if they really wanted to make the most of the email facility from BowlsLink, they'd also want to manage a lot of the groups. So in here, I can work out if I'm going to apply a filter this or take some of these columns out. But as I suggested, this is a great place to start as a club administrator before the season. Print this off and work out what sort of information you need to collect from your members, and then go back through the process of adding that to all of your members. So the way that I did that was I went to exports on the left here under membership, and I clicked on my actions button and I clicked download report. So it's going to put it as an Excel file. I think it's CSV file it'll be. All right, let's just see if I've covered everything off in our module today. So we have looked at members, the difference between active, pending and archived. So remember, when I put Jane into the system, she started off in the pending list, and then I quickly approved that and moved her to the active list. I also showed you how to then archive that particular person if you needed to. So that's ticking off adding a new member. We looked at editing an existing member. We then touched on groups and categories, and the big one there is the difference between the two. So groups, really that comes back to your email campaigns, and categories is what group you're going to put that particular member and whether that person has playing rights or not. So with groups, you've got to decide whether that's going to be an email campaign. Certifications, we looked at the types of certifications that you can add, and the ones that Bowls Victoria and Bowls Australia add. And we also looked at how to add that. And just remember, when I added the working with children check to Jane, it was pending, so I needed to approve that. You do have the facility of actually adding a copy of that certification as well. Transfers, we didn't look a lot at transfers because a lot of that's done through Bowls Victoria. And then just to finish with, we looked at how to export your database. So how to get a copy of it in Excel so that you can see all your missing data. And as I suggested, that's probably a great way to start before the season. All right, now some people did send in some questions prior to today, so I'll just go through those, and I'll also check the questions that have been added to the webinar section. All right, some of the questions I got prior to today's webinar is, what do we do when a member shares the same mobile number and email address? That's a really good question, and it's a common one. So this, when you float on here, straight away you can see what details they've got. So Alpha Beta has an email address but no mobile. All right, I'm just going to click on one of these members and show you. So edit members details. Now, it's really important they have an email address, because without an email address, when this member logs in, they won't be able to do a password reset. So let's say we've got two members that share an email address. I'm going to give this person the email address, and then the other person, I can't put it in here because people can't have the same email address in the key details, I would then store it in the personal information. The problem with that then is that person who's missing that email address, they'll need to use their mobile number to log into BowlsLink. And they won't be able to do a password reset. They'll have to request that from Bowls Victoria. Now, what do you do with a member who has no email and no mobile? It's pretty rare, but it can happen. Obviously, you're not going to be putting them in here. And the member, so just an example, they're going to have to use their member ID number to log into BowlsLink. And again, as I mentioned, they don't have an email address, they can't do a password reset. They will need to ring Bowls Victoria to get their password changed. Good question. How do members log into BowlsLink? I think I sort of just covered that a little bit then. So they just click on BowlsLink. If it's their first time, they'll use their email address that they've got in the system. So for example, Reese would use that email address, and then there's a process of resetting the password, which is pretty straightforward. And as I mentioned before, if they don't have an email address, they're going to have to use a mobile number or an ID number, and they'll have to speak to Bowls Victoria about getting their password reset. Dual memberships. I did touch on that a little bit in the session, but it's a great question and a common question that we get at Bowls Victoria. It is done through Bowls Victoria at the moment. So there's a process of requesting to be added to someone else's database, and they don't get a new ID number. It's just the same ID number, but they'll be added. And generally that'll be a secondary club. It won't be as your primary club. Primary clubs are done as transfers. So that's really important. And who looks after transfers? Quite relevant to what we're talking about. That's Bowls Victoria. Okay, we've got when should we archive a member? I generally do this at the start of the season, and I have a look at any of my members that have transferred to another club, and I would be archiving them. Just remember that Bowls Victoria will do that for you. And then I have a look at any members that I know that sort of started off and then really haven't come back. And just remember that you can't delete a member. You can always bring them back from archived. So I did that for Jane. So there's no harm in archiving them, and then if they decide to come back, you can put them back into your database. But archiving is good because you want to get an up-to-date list of who's actually bowling, and if they're not bowling, then they do not need to be in your list. Last one is, can two members in your club have club admin rights? Yes, they can, and that's all done through Bowls Victoria, but there is a form that you'll need to fill out. So we don't just hand over club administration rights to anyone. There's a form and a process that you'll need to go through and send in to Bowls Victoria. So that's a good question. All right, I'll just check the questions in the question and answer section of the webinar. There's one that's very similar. Okay, so there's no other ones that have been added. We do have some experienced club administrators on today. All right, I'll just click onto my last slide. So as I mentioned at the start, my name is Matt Ottobre. I'm the Club Education and Training Manager at Bowls Victoria. So one of my roles is to support you as much as I can with BowlsLink. So there's my email address if you want to send me an email and you have any questions. And there's my mobile number if you want to give me a call. So thank you for joining our session today. Today's session has been on our membership module, and we are looking at running a number of webinars out there to cover some of the other areas. So I mentioned a couple of those other areas would be email campaigns and invoicing. So thanks for your time, and I hope today's session has enabled you to improve what you do with BowlsLink. Thank you.